Welcome back, Waaagh, and today I must apologize that I've been off for so long. It was midterms out in college, and it was a rough go, and I've been traveling back home. But now, I have the time to make you guys all the content that you've been missing out on. So the hope is to pump one out every single day of the week so that everyone can be entertained and I can catch up on all the things and give the people, you guys, what you deserve, the greater good content that you've been waiting for and missing. I've got some other plans. If we hit 1,000 subscribers during this week, I'll do a live stream and, all hang out and chat and talk Tau stuff or whatever you want. Really, all could be fun. So yeah, if we hit 1,000 during this week, that's what we'll do for a little bit of fun. Or, if it's next week. But I'm hoping this week. I know we can do it. It'll be great. Anyways, today I figured that we would do an episode on, well, I suppose to copy Morning Glory. But we're Tau, so it's fine. Know thy foe. And the first foe I figured that we would touch on would be the Orks, because these were the first enemies that the Tau came into contact with when they started expanding out their empire. Now, many of the Tau named characters have had great success against the Orks. For example, Farsight is known very well for his fighting against the greenskins and adapting for melee combat to better fight them. So too is Anshi, for leading the infantry squads of fire warriors against the greenskin menace and pushing them back again and again so the pulse rifles can be used well and being at the forefront to defend all of his fellow fire warriors. And I'm pretty sure Shadow Sun had something against the Orks, but nothing comes to mind currently. But she is, the Supreme Commander, so I'm sure she's got something good going for her there. But I digress. Now, to dive into our enemy, our foe for today. Now, the Orks are pretty simple. They're fairly one-dimensional. It consists of, we see you, we run really fast at you, and we kill you. Now, they're all about getting up into a good crump, as they like to call it, melee combat, which is not really the place where we like to be. So more often than not, I find most Tau commanders sitting themselves back, blasting away at the Orks, and praying to God that we kill enough of them before they get into our lines. As for the Orks, their hope is that they get into our lines and kill us before Kayun comes into effect, and we get extra shooting, which can very well devastate them. So their strengths are pretty simple. They have transports, which are pretty fast. Orks typically move slowly on foot with about a 5-inch movement. What they need in order to get close enough to us is their transports, which move way faster, or their teleporters, which can put them within 9 inches of us traditionally. The transports will also buff the durability of the Orks in general as well, as they only have a 6-up save. So the transports are very important to every Ork war boss to getting their boys into battle. After that, they have good melee. And let's be honest, literally everyone's melee is better than ours, but these guys will absolutely tear through our infantry and even delete more often than not our suits, because the majority of our suits, like crisis suits, are only T5. There's also our broadsides, but they're only T6. After that, we get a little bit more of a buff with the ghost keel, but it's also only T8. That's not terribly impressive. I'm sure the Orks have a lot of strength 8, 9, 10 level stuff coming into us, while their power claws and kill saws mince us up pretty bad. Same with the Riptide, T9, and the rest of our vehicles are T10. I'm just not going to get into any of the Titanic things that we have, because let's be real, most of us are not bringing those. It's all very devastating to us. And let's be real, we don't really have much of a response to it. Farsight's good, but you only have one Farsight. Anshi is okay, but Strength 5 going into T5 is also not terribly impressive. And to be fair, every wound that you land will most likely kill one because their saves are so bad, but it's just not sufficient. Another big thing that the Orks have going for them is the amount of bodies that they can just throw at us. Because of the save of their boys, they get a lot of them for fairly cheap. And they're more often than not going to be able to out-OC us on objectives if we're bringing a bunch of battle suits. So they are going to be pretty good at holding primary points. Sure, their saves aren't good, but you still have to chew through all of them and can't get too close or else they'll charge and kill you. So by the end of the game, you'd be more likely to walk onto the objectives. Otherwise, more often than not, you're going to have to sit back, shoot at them, and that's not good, having the primary points run up on you and then maybe being able to jump on at the very end. So we need more volume of power into these guys, and especially in a meta where it is all vehicle-based, quality of shots seems to outweigh quantity of shots. And with them, you're definitely going to want quantity. After that, we have very durable characters for the Orks. The characters include Ghazghkull, obviously. He's less impressive than he was last edition. His toughness didn't go up as much as it probably should have, but still, he's got Makari hanging out with him, and he's a pretty big issue to deal with. After that, you've got the Beast Boss Riders, whether it's the name character or just the normal one. The Beast Bosses have a 4-up invuln, I believe, and a 4-up or 5-up Feel No Pain. Point being, they've got invulns, they got Feel No Pains, they're fairly tough, And not only do you need volume of fire, you also need quality of shots in order to actually do any real damage to them. Their durable characters also just absolutely massacre us in combat. Moving on from that, we've got the obvious thing, the Waaagh. The Waaagh pretty much shores up against everything that the Orks are bad at, which is that they aren't that fast on foot, they aren't that durable, but they are good in combat, but it buffs it up even more. The Orks get to advance and charge, which is very important because, like I said, they're not that fast. They get an extra attack and strength, which means more often than not, they'll be cleaving us on 3s and 2s, just about all of their Orks. So they got speed up, they got damage and melee up, and here is the real kicker, a 5-up invulnerable save army-wide. That is huge. That really negates any of our high AP shots going into them. And their Ork boys that have a 6-up save get a 5-up for those couple turns that they're in the Waaagh. And that makes it very difficult. 6-up saves, you pretty much guarantee massacring whatever you're shooting into. 5-up saves makes that shot of saving them go up twice as much. It's a 1 in 3 chance, and that's way better than a 1 in 6. So now, what are their weaknesses? We've gone over everything that's pretty dang good about them. What can we do in order to get rid of them easier? Now, their saves across the board are fairly bad. 6-up for the basic boy. Everything else is usually a 50-50 shot, unless you've got stuff like Mechanobs running around with 2-up saves, and some invulns as well. Their shooting is also not impressive. It's only on a 5+. So if you got anything running around with stealth or the like, then you have a pretty good shot of just not being touched at all and shooting. To be fair, like I said, they're just better in melee in general, so it's mostly where they're going to want to be. But still, we can capitalize on them being bad at shooting, and you'd like to get into a firefight with them more often than not instead of just a straight-up trading on objectives match. So our response to this is going to be fairly simple. We're going to have to shoot. We're going to have to shoot a lot, mixed with a couple other things. I know that's our answer to everything. It's like, all right, we have a big enemy coming our way. What's the answer? Aha, I know. Bigger gun. Anyways, we're going to need to screen out. And when I say screen out, I don't mean put guys in the middle of the board that will give your opponent charge catapults up to you. This is going to take a little bit of pre-measuring, making sure that they don't just get easy charges off the bat, figuring out who's getting first turn and the like. I would have to say that what you're going to want are a lot of guys that can forward deploy and or have scout moves. The forward deploy guys obviously will be your Far Stalkers, your Pathfinders, and your Stealth Suits. But preferably, you'd also want to have guys that can do scout moves as well. Because you're going to want to screen out your opponent in such a way that if you get... So this is why Pathfinders are ideal. If you get turn 1, then you can move your guys forward to keep them more in their own deployment zone. Get a couple lucky early shots off, stuff like that. And know that they're going to have to charge through and kill your guys before they make it to the rest of your army. But if you get turn 2, you can pull your boys back based on whether they're going to call Waaagh or not, or whether they're actually going to be fast enough to make it up to you and make the charges. You've got to know how fast they're going to be on you, because once they're on you, you're never going to get them off. You don't have any real good fallback and shoot options with most of your infantry. You've got a couple in your battle suits, but on the whole, you're not really equipping them with that. So what I'm going to be saying is you're going to want Pathfinders more often than not, or Far Stalkers because they're really cheap. Forward deploy, be up front, keep your opponent out. You don't want to keep your guys in such a way that like they get to move up a little bit, they get a easy charge off onto you, and now they're sitting on the middle objectives. And they got a bunch of guys sitting on the middle objectives because they all just rushed forward because they got their advance and charge because they called Waaagh turn 1. Can't have any of that nonsense happening. After that, you're going to want to invest a little bit more in volume of fire, because volume of fire is something that isn't really there to be seen these days because everyone is bringing quality targets, whereas quantity targets aren't as available. You got an opponent that's got a lot of Ork boys coming your way. It doesn't matter if you have a railgun, because a railgun will only kill one of them. You need a lot more shots going into them. And with these, a lot of extra shots, you're going to have more Overwatch opportunities. So you're going to be wanting to put out strike teams. Units that have flamers. I'm thinking crisis suits. I'm even thinking of the Yavara. That thing would be perfect because it's got good strength, it's got decent AP, and it's got a big number of shots that you can just drench onto your opponent's Orks. All very good. You're going to want the volume. It's going to be helpful. Get rid of most all your boys. And the strike teams are good for sitting OC. And also the surprise of, oh, I hit you on a 4-up in Overwatch as well. So, just other thoughts. You need to be able to shoot and be good at shooting. Now, it's one thing in order to get rid of the mass numbers of your opponents coming down upon you, having good Overwatch opportunities to hit back. You're going to want objective clearers as well, though, because these guys can get on an objective and sit there and have absolutely no issues with it. This is where the crisis suits come back again. You're going to want a bunch of volume of fire. I'm thinking cyclic ion blasters, maybe missile, just a lot of fire from a lot of your suits. Just point at an objective and clear it off. You're also going to want breachers. Breachers, big time, because the breachers make it very easy for you to just come up to an objective and blast someone off. Rerolling all your wounds is phenomenal. Average toughness of the orcs is like 5, 6 area. You're wounding things on 3s and 4s, rerolling everything. You're going to be wiping them out. That one little pip of AP takes away their save. It's perfect. So you're going to want good Overwatch opportunities, you're going to want good objective clearers, and you're going to want guys that are what I like to call your can openers. Those big orc trucks on the other side of the board, that's where their mobility comes from. You get rid of that, it doesn't matter how good they are in melee. They will not be getting into melee because they're too slow. This is where your broadsides come in, your hammerheads, your sky rays, anything with the seeker missile, or even if you're feeling pretty gutsy, you can bring Storm Surge. That'd be pretty cool to see. I don't think I've ever seen one of those in person, but I digress. You're going to want something that's going to be able to punch out their tanks, because it's a tank meta these days. And in all honesty, we don't really have that many good responses to tanks. We need more good responses to tanks. And the broadsides and the hammerheads, just the big guns, and any place you can get a seeker missile will be perfect for you to get rid of those right off the bat. And it doesn't matter, the seeker missiles are one shot, perfect. If it lands, hits, gets rid of the truck at the start of the game, you won't have to worry about it for the rest of the game. After all of the shooting, we're coming back again to the screening option. You're going to want to stifle their charges. That grenade strat that gives them a -2 to charge and then being battle shocked, perfect. You're also going to want your Pathfinders out there with their drones. If they're not forward deploying out into the middle of the board to maybe get some good board control early on, you're keeping them in your home objective and just using their scout move to get out, you're giving them that drone to give them -2 to charge. Because any minuses that you can give charge are exactly what we need. We can't get overwhelmed with all of the orcs getting into melee on us. And here's where the fun part begins. Because not only can we get rid of their charges, we need good counter-charger options. And this is where I'm looking at Farsight, Waaagh, Shi, and even Kroot in certain instances. You send Kroot into guys with a 6-up save, you'll kill a lot of them. And there's a chance that with your whittling away of all of your firepower from all your other guys, and you've got a couple boys left on an objective, you send some Kroot over there, like a 10-man squad of Kroot, or maybe 8 or 9 because they've been whittled away by shooting. Probably not too likely, though. We'll get into that later. Like, they eat them, they have a 5-up feel no pain sitting on that objective. It's beautiful. It's perfect. Definitely good to have Kroot. Farsight as well. He can really get into some of the bigger beast bosses and the other guys that are a bit more dangerous. On Waaagh, perfect. Pop the 2-up invuln. He's got -1 to hit, -1 to wound. Really hard to get through. Definitely will tie up one of the big beast boss guys on their squigs for a turn or two. Shi isn't that good. But Shi in a squad will give you an extra OC to that squad. You put him in a Breacher squad, that's OC 3. Breachers run up, whittle away the objective, you send Shi in, he's hitting on 3s, he has 6 attacks, sustained hits 1, there's a good chance that, and he's got AP -1, he can clear off a squad of boys. You can even give him precision if you want him to kill the character specifically. But I digress. Point being, he is a good option to run up and get rid of whittled away enemies, similar to the Kroot. You won't always want to utilize the shooting to whittle them away enough till they think that they're still safe, but you still have a melee option to go charge in and take the point. We need counter-charging opportunities because charging helps you get onto objectives. It gives you extra mobility, and for a very mobile army, you're going to need a little bit more of it when you've got guys that are just continually running at you and trying to get in your face and chop you up in melee. After that, I'd say this is a bit more icing on the cake, a little more seasoning, but a bit more flavor. You want to shut down any shooting that they have. You want to dominate the shooting game. That means your infantry guys are going to be running around with Guardian drones, all of them, -2 wound. I can't tell you how good that is, especially against orcs. They're having a hard enough time to hit you as is. -1 to wound, any of the lucky shots they might get through, gone completely. And this is where the even better part comes in. Kroot and stealth suits, -1 to hit. -1 to hit. They go from hitting on 5s to hitting on 6s. They don't have a prayer of ever hitting you. And they don't even have the thing that they used to have. They gave them extra shots if they hit you on a 6. Very good. Overall, you've got to pretty much make what they have, their weaknesses that are bad, make it worse. Negate their mobility even more. Negate their bad shooting even more. And then you just try to completely avoid on that will withdraw their ability to get up and be fast and get into combat with you. You need the boys that'll get rid of their trucks. You got to have the big railguns. It's our anti-tanklets we got to use. And then you got to surprise them with some little counter-charging opportunities and availabilities. After that, if you have enough shooting, Get rid of them when they move up in Overwatch. You have good guys that can move up out of cover and take them off objectives when they've charged up and killed other guys. It's going to be a lot of trading. It's going to be a big trading game. They're going to come in, they're going to wipe your infantry off the objective or suits off the objective, then you come back, you got to hit them hard, get rid of them as well. It's going to be very back and forth. Best to do is just to avoid them and not have to engage them until it's on your own turn in your own terms. So anyways, that's just my thoughts on how we have to go about beating the Orks. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Let me know if you think I'm wrong. Again, I'm sorry for taking so long in getting the video out, but I hope you all enjoyed. I'd like to thank my patrons, Samjer, Ryan Hall, David Palilio, K-Mag, Jonathan Patino, Chris F., Mark, Magnus Therodi, and created by Philip. Thank you all very much for supporting me and keeping the lights on out here. I'm sorry it's been a week since the last video, but we will have a lot more coming out for you this week. It'll be great. And I hope your day goes for the greater good.